smacks me in the face.
Really, so far, yeah, it's kind of a tough question for me to answer because I will admit that a lot of times during these practices and scrimmages, I'm writing. Like I use practice time. It's like almost like babysitting. Like I'll be honest, I didn't see the JT Brown Belpedio fight the other day because I was writing my Koivu story in the press room. So it's hard for me to say. Other than what Bruce has kind of reported that he hasn't liked the fourth line. I will say that Bruce, Bruce has a tendency to be negative. He has been extremely happy with the effort in these scrimmages, the competitiveness in these scrimmages by pretty much everybody. But right now, I haven't really seen anybody that's just jumped out at me and said that guy has been terrible. So that's good.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. We do really intense show prep here. You told me to ask you about electronics in Vegas, so I'm going to ask you about electronics in Vegas. But first, let's thank John Hedges and Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. They are now in downtown St. Paul, in the Skyway, walking distance from the Xcel Energy Center or the Wild offices. They're in downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway. I go by there all the time. They're in Toledo, Ohio, if anybody gets to Toledo. They're also, and the big mothership is in the Mall of America, third floor by Nordstrom's.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All three shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
All right, what are you laughing about?
It's 3-0 Winnipeg right now.
Whew.
Yeah.
You made the right choice, not going to Winnipeg. So electronics
I should text Dan Myers and say, hey, make sure you ask Bruce about resiliency afterwards. Do people around like a couple of years ago, Bruce, the Wild were like down 5-0 and lost the game 5-4 in Winnipeg? Or it was something like that. And Dan Myers, Gorg asked like a softball to start.
Hold it. Gorg asked a softball?
And then Dan Myers like, you have to be happy with the resiliency of your team. And Bruce just flipped. He goes, you're acting like we're good. And then he just stormed off. It was so funny.
That's my favorite thing. Because, listen, I like Gorg. He's a great dude. I like Dan Myers. But what we have in modern media and covering sports is you have people who work for the team who are standing there with the media asking questions. You have people who work for rights holders who are tied in with the team. The team partners are asking questions. And they're just trying to get through the interview without ticking anybody off. So they're asking the softest possible questions.
Yeah, but I don't want to act like I'm ripping on them. It was just a funny thing.
No, but my point is that sometimes the coach or the player you're talking to doesn't want the soft questions. Sometimes they actually want somebody to get you going.
In that situation, Bruce I was not at that game. Can't remember why. But I remember watching it afterwards, and that was one of those ones where Bruce was like, you almost see like, where's Russo? Like, just ask me a question and just trash somebody. Like, Bruce, sometimes he loves my leading questions to just rip on a player. Like, hey, what, Rask on that play.
Well, we've talked about this before. We've both had coaches, managers, general managers, whatever, pull us aside during our careers and say, will you please rip this guy for me? Yeah. Get his butt moving.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's not, the media's negative thing. I tell you what, one who's negative? People who are going to get fired if the players don't play well. Those are the guys who are negative about these people.
Yeah.
So what's the electronics in Vegas?
No doubt about it.
Story.
I will say this: Dan Myers does a really good job.
He does. I like Dan. I like Kevin,
nobody can write
too.
a good story faster than that guy. I think in this town, like it's crazy sometimes how fast he'll write a story. Kent Youngblood writes fast.
He does.
What was I going to say? The electronics story.
Yes. I kind of like it when you're flustered and you can't think of what you want to say, so I just let you hang there for a while.
This is an unfreaking believable story, okay, of how just stupid I am. Okay? So I'm at the Planet Hollywood a couple weeks ago, and I'm already, I've already dropped a good amount of money for this watch, and I wanted to watch like Ray Donovan or something on the TV. I mean, something stupid, okay? I didn't, and it was like one of those things where it's like, well, I've just spent a lot of money on a watch. I really would like to avoid the casino, so I'd like to watch something. And I had this gigantic suite, so I turn on the TV thinking it's a smart TV, and it's not. So but I want to watch Ray Donovan off my computer. So I'm like, well, I left my HDMI cord at home. So I'm going to go down to one of those stupid like huts in the mall at the Planet Hollywood and buy an HDMI cord. So I have a laptop that's got one of those lightning like jacks, like doesn't have like an actual like place to put the USB. So I go down and I ask this girl, I'm like, hey, will this work? Is this compatible? It had the lightning bolt on it. Is this compatible with my laptop to go in the TV? She's like, oh yeah, no problem, blah, 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 blah. So she's ringing it up. And I have one at home that I'm not kidding. I bought on Amazon for like $10. And she like, all of a sudden she's ringing it up. This is unbelievable. And it comes up $86. And I'm like, what? And I almost said no, but then I'm like, in my mind, I decide, well, I'm going to buy it and I'll just return it at the end of the trip. So, but then I go upstairs and the thing doesn't work. So I go down to the hut and she's not working anymore. And I go to the manager. I'm like, hey, the girl said this was going to work. It's not working. Can I return it? And he goes to me like, we don't do returns. And he's basically like, go try it again. Try it out yourself. I forget what exactly. So I go up, I try it again. It doesn't work. So I go back the next day. I don't feel like going that night. I go back the next day and try to return it, and she's there. And they will not refund my money. So I'm getting a little heated. But what they're going to do is they're going to let me exchange it for anything there. So I decide that I want a pair of like wireless headphones for my laptop because my AirPods on an airplane just don't. These engines on these freaking MD-90s are so loud, so you can't transcribe anything. So I decided that I'm going to get these headphones. So then they're ringing up the headphones, and they're like, all right, you only have to pay like $90 more for the headphones. And I'm like, okay. And then she sells me on this stupid battery pack for my phone. So anyway, I returned the stupid HDMI cord, and I walked away giving them $200 more for these. Honestly, these two devices that might be the cheapest things I've ever. I mean, the headphones have already broken. Let's put it that way. Like, you can't even make it. So I basically spent $280 for an HDMI card that didn't work. So that's my electronic story.
Now I feel better about you spending a ridiculous amount of money on watches. At least you have a watch.
When we turn the podcast off, we'll leave out. I'll explain the middle of the story too that I don't want to say publicly.
We will look forward to
on
that.
Why I spent the $280. But anyway, it was just bad. It was
spent
stupid.
$280 in Vegas.
Yeah, it was just dumb. Scott,
before we get your question, I do want to thank Tony Hoagland. Tony's been sponsoring the program and the network for a long time. He is now, for anybody who calls up and mentions this show, he will donate to the Jason Zucker's Give 16 charity, and National State Farm will match it. No obligation to purchase. They're not hard sellers. I've dealt with them. As I always say, Tony handles my insurance. He handles Michael's insurance. So thanks to Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund.
Hi, Talk North listeners. I wanted to let you all know about State Farm's new program called Quotes for Good. We partner with local nonprofits to raise money for great causes. For the Russo-Souhan Show, I'll be donating $16 to the Jason and Carly Zucker Give 16 campaign that benefits the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. When you call in, be sure to mention the show so that we can track the donations. You can reach us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at champlininsurance.com.
Yes, sir, Scott.
Captain Scott to you.
First, I got to call
Captain
you out.
Scott.
Because we all know that engines on an MD-88 are in the back, and you're in the front.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
it's probably the 737s. So some of those things are loud.
So, Jim, I was going to give you trouble because
Yes.
This goes back a little while now, but I saw one of your tweets. You brought up the Sano stuff back in the day about him being overweight and all that stuff.
Because it was true.
And then, out of his work, people were saying, well, wait a minute, because you're saying how good he is. But
which is true.
In your defense, I heard you talk about
I got to say, this will hit a nerve. The idea that you can only have one position. you have to say, okay, this guy is 22 years old. I'm going to have this opinion on him, and I'm going to stick with that opinion no matter what happens. He was out of shape. He was overweight. He couldn't rehab. He wasn't performing. And 3 Twins people told me, we're worried about this guy's career. So I wrote that. And then he turns it around and gets in better shape and plays better. I'm not supposed to, I should just say he's still fat because he's gotten in better shape and now he's performing.
And I heard you talk about it on the Smalley podcast, right. So I hear you. And you're absolutely right. But it leads, and your reaction leads right into my question. As 2 journalists who came up with a completely different idea of what journalism was going to be, and now with this Twitter universe, and I've seen you both get a little spun up, and sitting on the outside, you kind of chuckle about it because some of these guys get me a little spun up, and I got nothing to do with it. But Michael has talked about how he doesn't have to wait in the weeds anymore to get his stories because people will send him the information with pictures and all that.
It's true.
But talk about the Twitter world now and how that has changed either what you've been doing or your expectations as you came along.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Well, listen.
By the way, are you a Family Guy guy? You don't watch Family Guy? You got to watch Quagmire as an airline pilot. It's a very good one. As you were talking there, I just so Scott's a pilot on Delta. And as you're talking, I'm like picturing when you're in the back of the plane, you're like, this is from the cockpit. We're at 25 cruising to 35, whatever. I was just kind of heard you saying it.
So Scott, you're a pilot on Delta. So when you and Russo are on the same plane, who sits farther in front?
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I bet he sits in front of you. I bet he gets the upgrade.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that, it's easy to complain about social media and Twitter, and there are things about social media in general I think are terrible for, humans and for our country and everything else. But it also has a lot of advantages. Listen, one of the things that has really benefited The Athletic is they hired a lot of people with huge social media accounts, and they can get their word out that without having to pay NBC to run ads. They can get their own information out. There are a lot of great things. It leads to some really good interactions. It's an easy way to follow. Michael and I have friends in the business all over the country. We follow them. We know what they're writing. Whereas before you'd have to go to the morgue at the newspaper and go look up, something from 3 weeks ago to find out what your buddy wrote. So there are a lot of advantages. It can be great. The difficult part about it is it's hard to turn off. These are all you're following your friends. You want to know who won the game. You want to know who said what after the game in San Francisco, whatever. So you're always checking it, and you can't separate, the guy who just wants to yell at you from all the good informational parts of Twitter. So it's weird, It's just always when we grew up, your focus was on having the best possible story in the morning paper. So you worked all day. And sometimes you'd find out something nobody else knew at 10 o'clock in the morning. You almost play defense. I got to protect this source. I got to protect this information because I want to have it alone in the morning. And now it's you got to have it out there right away. So it's changed everything. Yeah. And a lot of it's good, but it also means that people who don't have your best interest at heart have access to you 24 hours a day.
Yeah, from the job perspective, I think it's mostly good. But look. You have to have a thick skin. There's no doubt about it. You just... And
that's the thing. Is I have a thick skin sometimes, but I don't have a thick skin 24 hours a day. Yeah. Some days I'm turn on the phone, I'm like,
I've gotten better of actually not, and I feel bad saying this because people tweet me all the time, but I try not to look early in the morning. Because, I wake up.
I try not to look caffeinated because I don't want to ruin my sleep.
I'm not caffeinated. Yeah. Look at Twitter, and I see somebody ripping on me, and you just react. But you've got to try to remember that, that one, you shouldn't respond, but two, that not one person makes the several followers that I have, and that most are respectful. But it is, for me, it's been a total benefit. One, during a game. There are times you're writing, like last night, I was totally uninterested in the game. So I realized quite early in that game when Hartman scored that goal that I wanted to do a Hartman story. I hadn't even really talked to him in camp yet. So I really started doing a lot of investigation about him during the game, found that stuff about his parents and the bar that he owned, and I just thought it was a really cool story. So I'm just kind of like working on